Republican Kevin Kiley and Democrat Sarah Elfreth. I'll start with you, Congressman Kiley. You are a Republican, and I would think that maybe where you stand politically is somewhere in between the extremes, even in the GOP. So what is your sense of where your party not just should, but also is going to go?
Well, I don't think it's a question about our party. I think it's a question from the whole country. I mean, this is a human tragedy. A life has been cut short at age 31. A wife has lost her husband. 2 young children have lost their father. But it's also an American tragedy. This is a political leader with millions of followers who was publicly executed in broad daylight while engaging in the purest form of expression in a democratic society, core political debate. And as such, it's an assault on our entire country. It upends the very first principle of a democracy, which is that persuasion rather than force is the currency of power. So the question is what happens from here. I think we all recognize that political divisions have been deepening in this country, that political violence is on the rise. And with so much anger right now and fear, this cycle could well escalate. But I don't think it has to be that way. I think this can be an occasion for soul searching as a country, where we ask ourselves, how can we pursue a different vision of politics? How can we all play a part in forming a better American community?
I agree. And we're certainly at a crossroads in this nation as a community and as a country. And the political violence we saw this week with Charlie Kirk is the same way many Americans felt about the political assassination of Minnesota Representative Melissa Hortman and her husband in their home, the bombing of the Pennsylvania governor's mansion, the attempted assassinations on the president. We are at a boiling point in this country, and it's incumbent on all of us, Kevin, myself, everybody watching at home, that we have to do something. We have to return to this collective humanity. And the whole idea of self-determination, the notion this nation was founded on, we have to get back to the choice we have collectively as leaders and as American people to turn the temperature down and find that collective humanity again.
I agree. I feel like this has been building for some time. And I was reflecting this morning, I was like, you know, are we just going to turn the page, or can we finish the book, right? Can we finish the book and say that we are starting a new conversation in this country? And I think that there's one thing about turning the temperature down, but there are some actions that we have to take, right? It's always about, you're a journalist, so you ask questions all the time. We don't ask people questions. As soon as David walked in the green room, I said, how's your wife? He says, how's your mom? Not, what do you think about the bill? And we don't see each other as humans anymore. We see each other as ideologies. We don't see each other as maybe having some similarities just because you have an R or a D. I don't agree with most policies that the Republicans have. I don't agree with most things Charlie Kirk said. I said it before, I think that some of the things Charlie Kirk said were personally offensive to me, but Charlie Kirk did not deserve to be murdered. And we have to be able to say that. And if we cannot say that, there will be people who disagree with me. You can disagree with me. That is America.
Yeah.
But
and David, you have known Donald Trump for a very long time, helped get him elected the first time around in Pennsylvania. Do you think that what he is saying about the radical left over and over again, instead of sort of taking on a more traditional role of a president trying to calm everybody, is it personal anger because it was somebody he was very close to? Is it something that is going to change, or is that just who he is?
Look, I think it's a lot. I think it's personal anger. I think it's a natural feeling at this point. But you know, there's this notion that pain is a debt that must be repaid, you know, in the same currency, right? And that's not something that I think is helpful at this point in time. I think Governor Cox, you know, he's talking of an off-ramp and trying to figure out a way to, you know, where do we go? How do we change the narrative from this point forward? And look, I fear that structurally, the body politic's not going to let that happen because, you know, we've got these 2 representatives here, very, very nice, right? But they're not indicative of the Congress writ large and the structure behind it. 435 House members, there's 20 competitive seats. You were rewarded in the U.S. Congress for being extreme. You were rewarded in the U.S. Congress for running the algorithms, the fundraising, rewards you for saying crazy shit, right? You are rewarded for that, right? If you are a moderate, normal person, you get lost in the cacophony that is the Congress. districts get drawn safer and safer so that people become more and more extreme. The system is built to produce those types of leaders. If you're a governor, if you're a senator, I saw Senator Fetterman on earlier. People who run for statewide offices have to be more appealing to, they have to have a more calming message because they have to appeal to both sides. And so until we fix the structural deficiencies that is the House of Representatives, like you can't look to the Congress and say, oh, make things better.
I want you to weigh in because you're directly impacted by this. In Texas, at the behest of the president, they're redrawing the seats.
But everyone's done
that. No,
right?
I'm saying, and now in retaliation, you might lose your job.
Well, I think I'll be able to keep my job, whatever the district looks like. But I do think that, the redistricting wars we're seeing is a manifestation of this deepening division where we can't even agree on the basic parameters of our politics. So everything you're saying is right, but I don't think the situation is hopeless. I mean, in this country, we've shown over generations, Americans have an amazing capacity to rise to the occasion, to take our circumstances and make the best of them. So I do think that when it comes to having a different kind of politics in this country, yes, at the level of Congress, we need to be seeking out common ground more and finding that common ground where we can. But I think all Americans have a part to play in it, and so that it doesn't become politics.
Yeah, Governor Cox is right. The president, Governor Cox, us around this table, it's incumbent on everybody to do their part to lower the volume, to turn down the heat. You just can't look to one political leader to make our lives better.
Can I just say, as a freshman in Congress, there is tremendous pressure to say controversial shit and to go viral and not to work together or find common ground or to co-sponsor.
So how do you push back against that?
So how you push back is by having conversations like we're having in the green room, by finding that common ground, by asking and requiring. We can't expect our constituents or the American people to have more civilized conversations than we have in committee. And so we have to reject, to your point, the structures here. We have a saying in my office, just like doctors have a Hippocratic oath to do no harm, we as elected officials have to have a similar oath of do not divide. And anger and fear are the most powerful tools some people are using in this moment and have used for a while.
You get rewarded by that.
I think, I also want to say, though, that we're talking about politics and we're also talking about policy, and then we need to talk about people. And they don't actually merge anymore. When I started my career in politics, it was supposed to be about the people, and you were supposed to develop your policies around what will actually improve the American people's lives. And no shade, but I don't know if elected officials are doing that anymore. I think they are developing policies around politics. And I think the structures are wrong. I'd love to start talking about some democratic reforms that we can have in this country. But I also think that people are feeling pain from policies that elected officials are, and then it is developing into this nastiness, and then you have terrible acts like we saw this week.
We're going to have to get a break. I just want to ask you, how concerned are you for your safety as elected officials?
Well, I think a lot of people are very concerned. I mean, the level of threats have gone up. Of course, when you see just a shocking tragedy like this, it only, adds to that. So I think that it is something that the Speaker is trying to deal with in conjunction with the White House right now.
Yeah, I mean, this week, in addition to the assassination of Charlie Kirk, we saw, bomb threats at HBCUs, bomb threats to the Senate President, Speaker of the House's homes in Maryland. And so this is real, but also the American people are scared and they're divided right now. And so again, I just ask, just like Governor Cox, can we find that collective humanity again?
All right, everybody stick around. On a lighter note, next we are going to hear, we heard